look at how the corruption works. So African churches are preaching a bastardized, satanic version of Christianity, not because they're connected to God or not because of religion, but because they can get more money from the United States who also believe in Christian Zionism.
You hear like Nigerians and Africans saying things like this all the time. Oh, Iran is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism. That is not that statement did not come out of a Nigerian head. That statement is US foreign policy, right? But you hear it parroted. If literally just go through Nigerian Twitter, like when you're less busy, go through my posts. You know, go through the hidden replies. Wow. Nowadays I hide and block a lot of people because I'm not interested in.
Yeah, I've been seeing it, David. It's great. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. If you guys don't mind, on that note, I want you to respond to something, because I saw this video earlier. I want to kind of end the stream on this because I saw this video and it's been living rent free in my mind ever since I've seen it, where they were explaining how the West brainwashed many Christians in Africa into supporting Zionism. So just for a second, I'm gonna play the video. I want to play a little bit of it, and I just want you to respond for a second time.
Africa has about 700 million Christians. A large number of them support Israel, or at least are sympathetic to the ideology of Zionism. Why is Christian Zionism in Africa so strong? African Stream spoke to retired Anglican minister Stephen Sizer, author of the book Christian Zionism, Roadmap to Armageddon, and founder of the Peacemaker Trust, for more insight into this phenomenon.
Christian Zionism is dominant in America, and that's why it's dominant in Africa.
Listen to this.
Because sadly, many churches in Africa are dependent on funding from churches in America.
This is one of the moments I'm like, what the fuck? David, you have any response to this? Because I'm learning, I was seeing this like, what? Christian Zionism in Africa? I'm watching this video. I had to get your.
That absolutely is a thing. My late dad, who died in 2017, who had never been to Israel before in his life, who had never been to the Middle East before in his life, was a Zionist.
Oh my fucking
because God. It's very much a thing. Because according to the version of Christianity that he believed in, Israel was a they were chosen people of God. And you might be surprised to find out that a lot of Nigerian Christians don't know that the biblical entity of Israel and the political state of Israel, which was founded in 1948, have nothing to do with each other. They're completely different things.
I wouldn't be surprised about that at all, actually. I feel like
a lot of Nigerians have no idea.
Most Black Zionists in America are like that.
Yeah, so they genuinely think that there's been this contiguous entity known as Israel, which has always existed, and that's that the bunch of white people in Tel Aviv are the Israelis of antiquity. They really do think that, So that's where I remember I used to listen to my dad, and I was a kid, so there are things I couldn't say, but it just struck me as incredibly insane. He would say things like, so we'd be reading like the Old Testament. And where you're seeing the God of the Old Testament saying like really genocidal stuff, dash the heads of their sons against the rocks, kill and take their daughters for your own, all that kind of shit. And my dad used to say things like, that's why even till to date, you can see that God is still on the side of the Israelites, of the people in Israel, the Israelis, that even, the fight they have in Gaza and in the West Bank. That's why, something that basically the long and short of what he was saying was essentially God has a massive blind spot when it comes to Israel. Israel has a giant get out of jail free card.
That's crazy.
He was not an outlier. He was not an outlier. There are a lot of Nigerian Christians who believe such things. Till now, as we speak.
I'll play just one more part. Nick, hold that thought. I want you to start
real quick, Nick. Dave, you know what you should hit him with? The Bible said the devil rules earth. Right? Maybe that's because that would probably be a better explanation biblically as to why Israel continues to get away with shit that will land you in hell, because the devil rules earth. Right? And then that's how it goes. But that's crazy. That's crazy.
I'm gonna show you guys just one more thing, and Nick, you can respond to that while I'm about to show you guys, because they're gonna show you the level of corruption and how the ruling class uses religion to manipulate the masses, as we all know. So I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then Nico, you can respond to it, and Dave, you can respond as well if you have any last things.
To this phenomenon.
Christian Zionism is dominant in America, and that's why it's dominant in Africa. Because sadly, many churches in Africa are dependent on funding from churches in America. And to be cynical, forgive me, if I can get money for my church from a particular church in America or a denomination in America, I'm more likely to get that support if I align my theology with their theology.
You see, that's the last thing I want to show you guys, because look at how the corruption works. So African churches are preaching a bastardized, satanic version of Christianity, not because they're connected to God or not because of religion, but because they can get more money from the United States who also believe in Christian Zionism. That's wild. But Nico, I want to show that last part before I get you in. Any thoughts on this? And David, we can wrap up after this video. I just had to show David that and get his response. I saw this before the stream. My mind was blown. I guess I had a blind spot. I didn't know the Christian Zionism problem in Africa. But it makes my fucking blood boil, man. But Nico, any final thoughts on David?
There's another way that Western colonialists control Africans. Like, that's another avenue. It's not like the only method they've used, whether it be Christian Zionism, whether it be access to the Western economy, whether it be through Western propagandized education. Like, there are various methods that they use to control Africans so that Africans don't just be Africans. Like, they're just not their own. But I mean, it happens here. It happens in Brazil. There are like the Afro-Brazilians oftentimes practice African religions. I would probably argue damn near more than like your average Nigerian would practice.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy, right?
Yep.
Like, generally out here, if you see somebody who is Christian, 9 times out of 10, they're white Brazilians. Like, it's not coincidental, but it's because the influence isn't the influence of Christian Zionism on the Black culture actually doesn't reach Black people here. There's various reasons for that, but it's sad, but it's not unexpected. But that also shows you how important the influence of the Western Empire is on Africa for them to maintain their power, right? Because why would you even care if Africans are Zionists? Literally, exactly. Why would you even care? Because it's Africa. It's also that important. The countries that they believe that have population that they believe, or rather the countries that have resources that they believe are important to the empire and to Zionism, that have something to contribute to Zionism, those are the countries that they target, and those are the people that they target. Otherwise, they would just leave them alone. So I also want to say too, like what Dave was talking about as far as the articles and how they only seem to align even when they're from two different sides of the aisle. They always seem to align when it comes to war. I remember when I was in debate, and my debate coach, so he was a conservative. I actually didn't know he was conservative until I graduated high school, but he would always have me read these articles, and he would actually never tell me which side that they were leaning. And he would just ask me like, "Oh, do you feel like this is liberal leaning or conservative leaning?" And I would tell him. And then after a while, I saw this pattern that was emerging when it came to anything regarding Iraq or Afghanistan. And I asked him, I said, and I'm new to politics at this point, right? My introduction to politics was debate. And I asked him yo, I got a question. Why the hell is it you always ask me in this article, are these people generally write liberal articles? These people generally write conservative articles. But why the hell every time they talk about Iraq or Afghanistan, it's exactly the same? He was like, now you understand. Yeah. I was like, what? He was like, you get it now. I do I have to explain to you real? He was like, because that's the one thing they always agree on. He said, he deliberately didn't tell me because he wanted to know if it was like part of my debate training, but like he wanted to see if I could see the pattern because I recognized which articles or which publications fell to which ideology. But like David said, I would see something where sometimes the headline was almost identical or the opening paragraph was almost identical, or you would see something copied directly out of Newsweek and like posted in the New York Times, like word for word. And I'm like, that's weird. And he was like, now you got to figure out why that is. And that was whenever I became staunchly anti-war. Like, I was like, these people are lying. Basically, he was like, he said, if they're all agreeing, they're all lying.
Yeah, well said. David, any final thoughts? I greatly enjoyed y'all. I'm sorry keeping you guys long today, but Nico, you already know it's impossible for us to do it. Oh, it's impossible for me and Nico to do a show less than 90 minutes. Then you throw David in there? No way. David, any final thoughts, man? I greatly enjoyed the stream, my brothers.
Yeah, just again, just reinforcing the point of cultural imperialism using religion. I'm just going to drop this tidbit here that you may or may not be aware of. So, I'm sure you've seen this universally popular viral video from Uganda where the guy's like, "Why are you gay?"
Yeah.
You know, and the other guy's like, "Who says I'm gay? You are gay." Right. Now, later on in that interview, when this crazy pastor guy comes in with a bunch of vegetables and starts eating them on air, Pastor Martin Semper, that guy gets his funding from an American Christian conservative group. So those are the people who are actually behind that thing, because the whole point of that performance and the whole point of that TV interview, which you may not know, was that at that time there was a debate in Uganda about whether to criminalize homosexuality or not. And it was as a direct result of the American church's involvement that Uganda passed the bill criminalizing homosexuality. Now, I generally don't really have a horse in this race, but my perspective on this is, whether or not you agree with the criminalization of homosexuality, the issue is, why is an American religious lobby group having the power to push legislation halfway around the world in another continent? And I guess that says it all.